Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the
I68
i68 podcast. Alina,
Sam,
how are you doing?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
I'm doing well myself. So,
You got a haircut.
I did, yeah. I'm actually really excited. It feels nice.
Yeah,
It's like,
looks
literally,
good.
it feels like 3 pounds was just lifted off
Oh,
of my
wow.
head. Yeah. Anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? What do you do here at church?
Here at church, I'm a part of the youth leaders ministry. I head the translation ministry and the teens ministry, and I am involved in the youth worship team. So those are kind of my top four.
Nice. Yeah.
But-
I'm excited to have you on because
Oh.
I wanted to talk about missions trip, and I feel like it's something that, as of recently, hasn't been talked about as much. And people, I don't know, when I've talked with my friends, like it's not really like it doesn't come up in conversation as much as like a option for most young people to do now.
Well, I know just the last few years too with COVID, like a lot of people haven't been able to go.
Yeah.
Because countries are shut down or were shut down, that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, but I'm glad that hopefully we'll start going back again, and
yes.
and we're gonna hopefully motivate some people to go. So. Tell us about where you served and kind of like, where you served, basically.
So in 2014, started going to Navajoa, Sonora. Navajoa is this little town in the state of Sonora in Mexico. And I mean, yeah, that's where I've gone to all of my
And how many
mission
years were you going there to Mexico?
5. I went on 11 trips. Yeah.
And kind of tell us about what made you decide to want to go in the first place.
It was really okay. Actually, since I was a kid, I always wanted to go. Like, who do you want to be when you grow up? One was a veterinarian, another one was a missionary, and the other one I don't remember anymore. But I remember when I was like still in Sunday school, and some people from church, they would go to like Ukraine, to Armenia, and they would, play their slideshows of the places they would go. A lot of them visited orphanages and were with, these impoverished kids and serving them. And that's something that I always wanted to do. And I never really knew if I could when I grew up. And then I got this opportunity to go to Mexico, which I didn't really expect, I guess. I wasn't against it, but I wasn't like, oh, yeah, I want to go to Mexico. One time during youth, Noah was preaching, and he wasn't even preaching about missions. I don't remember what he was talking about, but he touched on Mexico because that year they just went for their first trip, January 2014, first like group trip. He's like, some of you guys are gonna go and serve, and something just hit me right there, and I knew like I had to go. But I was a little bit nervous, and I just prayed about it for a while, and I knew that they didn't have very many spots because we would take Andre's van, and there was like 11 seats, and that was it really, and like it's already packed with a bunch of the leaders or like older people that, had like kind of a reason to serve or like experience, purpose, and I felt kind of, I don't know, like too young, kind of useless almost, but I was like, okay, God, if you want me to go, I'm going to go talk to Dima. He's the youth pastor at that time. I was like, Dima, I feel like I need to go to Mexico, and I know you guys don't have a lot of space, but if you'll take me, I'm going to go. And he's like, for you, we'll make space. And so that was my first trip. It was November 2014, and then I didn't miss one since then until we stopped going because of COVID. So that was super sad. But yeah, 11 trips, 11 mission trips.
Wow, that's good. So that's good. Kind of when you were going into this, to missions trip, how did you decide to balance, figure out how to deal with school, how to figure out like how to pay for the finances and everything? Did it just like come all of a sudden, or did you have to like work at it? Because I've heard of some people who they told me about how they went to Mexico, and finances was like the main thing because you have to pay for the hotel, you have to pay for the food, everything, and kind of the ticket itself or whatever it was, if they were to fly there. What was that like for you? And what do you like kind of recommend for some people who are trying to, compensate for that in order to make it?
When I first started going, I was 18. And like shortly before that, I was just working and saving money. When I was like 16, I started to work by babysitting, and I saved a good chunk of money that summer, and I just put it away. I didn't use it. I just had it. And that paid for my first few trips, because going to Mexico honestly is not that expensive, especially when we were driving. It was like $500, $600, something like that. And then that was just like kind of the group expenses, the, gas and hotels, and then other things. But like you could easily make it in like 500, $600, which isn't that much when people flying to Africa spend like a couple grand on just the tickets.
Yeah.
So, but also back then, I feel like I was better at not allowing myself to spend money. Like now I make more money and I allow myself to spend more money, which is
Definitely.
not smart. Don't do that. Save. But I always had something set aside. And there were definitely trips where like I didn't know how I would pay. And people would randomly just come up to me and bless me. And like I never expected it, and I don't think we ever should. If God is leading you somewhere, He will provide for you, whether it'll be from other people or just your own wisdom, saving money, making sure that you have the means to go and to serve when the opportunity arises. And then like for me, it was kind of harder just to get time off work and school all the time, but I never had an issue. Like it was just God's hand on it. There was only one time when I was in nursing school, and one of my instructors was like, yeah, no, you can't miss school. I would have missed the first like 2 or 3 days of class. I still went on the trip. I just came back earlier than everybody else, so I didn't miss any school. But
Yeah, that's great. So like kind of fast forwarding to when you're there, what was your day like? Like what did it look like to serve? Because people might think of of how what it might be like to be there, but I feel like when you're in the experience itself, which I personally have not been on a missions trip. I've only been in state, so I've visited a couple of churches on the road, but I haven't actually been to Mexico. So I want to know like, what did you do consistently to serve, and yeah, kind of how your day was.
it changed, I think, from every trip as I kind of grew more mature, more comfortable, also more comfortable with the language. Now I'm fairly fluent in Spanish. So when I first went, I felt like I was just kind of on the sidelines watching. Sometimes I play piano, so sometimes I would play piano during like the prayers during the services, or I would go and I would pray for people. And that I think is one of the main parts that we played a role in, I guess, in serving when we went to Mexico, just because we would put on these like youth conferences, they would call them, not what we called them, but they called them. And so we would just go speak the word and pray for young people who are struggling, just like young people struggle here. But it really meant something to them because, we traveled thousands of miles to this random dusty town, to a tiny church that when it first started, they didn't even have a building. They were meeting outside in the pastor's yard with just like, they had they had like trees and a net up top, and the branches and vines would kind of like go over to create shade. But yeah, you were there in the heat, in the cold, with the bugs, with the rain, with the whatever, just there in the dirt. But with people who were so hungry for God, so hungry for an answer, like it just hit different, But so we did that. We went to villages. We served the kids. We put on like a little Sunday school type program with like a lesson, games. We always had food for them afterwards. A few years down the road, we started going to this orphanage in a little seaside town. It's called Guaymas. So we worked with the kids there. A bunch of our guys were construction, so they helped with, they like painted, they fixed the toilets, they built stuff I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
for
build
sure.
things, but they were helping out however they could with that. We would have a lot of just one-on-one conversations with pastors, with the leaders of the church or youth leaders. Just like we go to conferences or somewhere or to a camp to kind of get refreshed. It was kind of like that for them, where they didn't have a chance. And I mean, sometimes we complain we have a small church and all the same people are doing all the things, but
Yeah.
like, imagine it being like 2, 3 times smaller and
Yeah.
that same load on an even smaller group of people. So I guess when you're on the mission trip, you do literally whatever you're told to do.
Yeah.
You can't say no. Yeah.
That's right.
But
So there's kind of like you kind of had like sort of a change of perspective almost into what it means to have like I don't know like a small church or
oh
how
yeah.
many volunteers you can have and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think there's like a huge difference between how do I say this and like how do I phrase this properly? Like the people back here at home and like the people there and their culture and how they serve. Like what is like kind of like a big difference that you see yourself?
The main difference I see, not necessarily even people who serve, but just between, I guess, Christians here and Christians there, and I feel like it's not just there, just kind of in poorer countries, is they have more of a need and more of a hunger for God because they do. Because they don't have as much money. They don't have as much opportunity, as much comfort as we do here. And I think that is a very big disadvantage for us
Yeah,
because
that's so true.
we don't need God a lot of the times. We can fix our own problems, but they almost always need God to fix their problems. So they have a bigger faith, bigger hunger.
For sure, yeah.
That's,
That's true. What's like a moment that really stood out to you? Maybe it like changed your perspective on serving. Maybe it like changed your heart and you're like, God, wow, like me being here in this moment, helping these people really shifted my own perspective on what maybe faith means, what serving means, what all these other things mean.
I don't really know if there was just like a moment, but I guess over all of the trips, all the experiences, just seeing that God, if you are willing to be used, that God will use you. Like I remember the first time when I was praying for a girl and she like fell over, the slain in the spirit thing. But I literally just like came up to her and barely started praying. Like I didn't feel any power, anything. And I realized that it's not me at all. It's God. Or you just, I don't know, when you can really feel the Holy Spirit move sometimes when you are obedient, like when you're obedient and singing a certain song during the worship or prayer moments. I learned that God can help me talk when I don't know what to say. It says that in the scriptures that the Holy Spirit will give us words, and especially because I'm more comfortable in English than in Spanish. But like I translated sermons a couple times, or I would pray for people in this language that was very unfamiliar to me, but I was still able to speak the words that God wanted me to. But even more amazing is when there were the people that didn't speak Spanish and would pray for people and they would still receive the word that God wanted them to. Because for God, there are no boundaries. There are no like limits because, oh, you speak English, I speak Spanish, or you speak Russian and I speak Spanish. Like it makes no difference to him. As long as you are there willing to be used, he will do what he wants to do.
Yeah. What were some like experiences of you maybe mentoring someone who was a little bit younger that it was like their first time going on the missions trip and maybe you've been on it like a couple of times already and you're like, you're kind of like mentoring this person along this trip specifically. Has there ever been anything like that?
I don't really think so. I don't know.
Really?
I mean, I'm not that much older than the young people that came. I guess they would just like hang around me because I could translate for them.
Yeah.
But like to mentor that, you would have to ask them. I don't know. I mean, I guess like with time again, with experience, maturity, and knowing the language, I would take more charge of like the times when we would go and do the services with the kids, for instance, or like the Sunday school type thingies, either in the villages or the program with the orphan kids. I don't know.
That,
I don't know if that's really mentoring.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Got it. Sorry. No, you're good. I'm just trying to like see from my perspective like what it would kind of be like after, going a couple of years on the missions trip, and there's like someone new that comes along and they kind of don't really know what to expect or what it means to serve or like
something. I don't know, this wasn't really me mentoring or anything, but something else that we started to do on the mission trips was go door to door.
Yeah.
We started this like the last 4 trips or so, going door to door, offering prayer, inviting people to the services, just like around the neighborhood, because a lot of people didn't have cars, motorcycle, whatever, like didn't have mode of transportation,
Right,
so
yeah.
they would be able to walk there. And so we took turns talking. And I guess that was kind of a place where I was able to like kick people forward and be like, okay, your turn to speak. And it's kind of scary,
Yeah, yeah.
even though people say it's easier in a different place, like further from home, and kind of it is, but at the same time, if you've never shared the gospel, if you've never offered prayer, if you're 16, 17, 18, and you don't talk about God with unbelievers or strangers, like it's weird. But it was a pretty cool experience. We had a lot of great testimonies just of moments where God touched people during those prayers. Some of them came to services, not very many, but a few did. A few got saved or delivered. It was awesome.
Yeah, so actually kind of like going into that, like I've totally experienced that myself where I was with a group of people because obviously this year we did evangelism and it's like a whole nother thing to go up to people and be like, hey, can I talk to you about God? Can I pray for you? All this stuff. And I think it's like even another step up to like go to a different country with people you don't really know. I don't even know. I'm just saying, I'm just like thinking from my head, like you don't know these people, like you look American, you're a gringo basically.
Yep, we're gringos.
Yeah, and they're like, what the heck? Like, wow, I didn't expect that, but that's just interesting, like an interesting perspective. Is there any like, what was it like street preaching? I heard a couple stories about that, but I heard that there's like a group of you that would go onto the streets and talk to some people there. Kind of what was that experience like?
I don't remember us just going onto the streets. It was door to door. And if we would meet people on the street, then we would stop. We would talk to them. But they're very open people.
Yeah.
Like they will hear you out. They will stop. They will take 5-10 minutes and they'll listen to you and they'll let you pray. But they don't necessarily respond. Whereas like here, people are going to be like, go away, you weirdo. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
6 feet,
Yeah.
whatever. But I guess, yeah, just kind of how I said before. It's just different, but it's good to push yourself out of your comfort zone and just to talk to people because they need Jesus.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna kind of switch gears, but what was like a unexpected moment that you came across yourself?
Unexpected moment.
Yeah, unexpected moment where you're like, whoa, the bus just broke down, or like, whoa, we're gonna have to do this here, or something like that.
Well, the bus broke down a lot of times.
Yeah, I bet.
The first time, I don't remember if this was the first time it really broke down, but this was kind of like, took us all for a spin. I don't remember. There's some tiny part that broke off or whatever, got lost. And we ended up at like a military checkpoint because to leave the country, you go through these several checkpoints and they can pull you over, check your car, check all your luggage, check whatever. And we were in line, and I guess whatever fluid we had was just dumping. And we only realized as we moved forward. And we were stuck at this military checkpoint for like 3.5 hours while the soldiers were like running around trying to find tools for us.
Nice.
And after 3.5 hours, they like fixed it barely enough for us to cross the border of the U.S. And then we broke down in Walmart. And we were there for many more hours while the guys were trying to fix the bus, and it wasn't happening. And so we had to wait till the next morning. It was like 3 a.m. by the time they decided to just go to sleep and wait for O'Reilly's or whatever to open up so they can go get the part. Yeah, so we slept in the Walmart parking lot in the freezing cold in our shorts.
Nice.
It was Black Friday, I think, actually.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And so the next morning, we all went shopping at Walmart, had breakfast in the Walmart McDonald's. And yeah, I don't know. That was a little bit unexpected. And then there's several times after that, some of them I missed because I would start to fly back to make it back to school on time. But like one of the tires almost flew off. The bus caught on fire. Oh, one of the last times they didn't let us cross the border because I guess they changed some kind of law in Mexico, or like if it's over this amount of passengers, it's considered a commercial vehicle and you need a commercial license, and we didn't have one. And so we tried to cross in one place and they're like, no. So then we tried to go cross in another place and they said again, no. And so we went back to the original place and they're like, look, you're in our system. If you try to cross one more time, we're going to take the bus. It's going to become part of Mexico's property. And so we're like, okay. So we had to drive back to, well, no, we were so tired and hungry by that point. We like went to some fast food place.
Yeah.
And then we went to Tucson, back to the airport, rented a couple vans, left the bus there, and drove all night. So we were supposed to be in like our city in Mexico, Navajo, like 6 p.m. or 8 p.m., whatever, on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And instead we made it there like 6 to 8 in the morning on Sunday. So some of us were like off the bus in the shower to church to preach. Like, I think I was one of those. And it was just like, whew. I mean, I didn't preach.
Yeah.
But to go to the churches to serve. So that was a whole, yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a mess.
Yeah. It
Like-
was a crazy start. But
Like, for one thing, like, we got to invest into a new bus.
yeah. Well, I think the guys, the last couple times they went, they like flew just to Phoenix or Tucson and rented a car and went.
Oh, yeah.
Less hassle.
I heard about
But the
that.
thing is, when we drive from here, like we were able to bring, the sound system to donate to the church, to bring like different things they needed for their homes,
Right,
their
yeah.
churches.
Yeah.
And that's not easily brought on a plane. So, I don't know. Has its pluses and minuses.
Wow. Alina, that was crazy. Yeah, that's cool. I can expect, that there would be a lot of like uncertainties when you're like going with a group of people in a tight space in a bus that might be a little too old, probably. But yeah, that was interesting. I kind of want to land on this last question, as we're closing up, but is going on a mission trip something that you would recommend to anyone?
I would.
Yeah.
Even if you never go again, just to go once, at least to change your perspective, to see, you get to see how much you really have, how blessed you are. That's one thing. But also, like, you are going to be pushed outside your comfort zone. You are going to be pushed beyond your limits. And I think it gives you a taste of something God can do with you here. Because, like we were talking about, even the evangelizing door to door, like in another country, how it might be harder. I think it's harder to do things like that here around people that see you every day, that know you, that can judge you, that can keep you accountable to the things you tell them. And I think it's good to go on this mission trip and then not forget that God commissioned all of us to go to preach the gospel to all the nations. So that means your next door neighbor and your coworker and your fellow classmates and your family, and not just so you can go someplace, take some pictures, post on Instagram, be like,
Right,
yeah, I did
yeah.
my, trip for the year, for my life. Like it's not enough. It's definitely awesome to go, to be a part of what God is doing in different places, in different churches, countries, cultures, but don't forget about the people around you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like, after listening to this experience, it's like, it almost seems like, you might not even be called to do mission trips for like the rest of your life, There's some people who in our church are called to, they're called to go to Africa, to do something there. I forgot which country specifically. but
To Rwanda. That's
Rwanda,
where
right? Yeah.
Alexei goes, and then like Luda and Yuroshabura, they would do Ukraine, Armenia.
Yeah. So, for some people, maybe that's their calling, that's what they got to do. But I think, for some people in our church who have no idea what their calling is, they're like, maybe I could try this one thing, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of iffy on it. Like, you know what? Just try it. I don't think it'll hurt. Maybe.
Going on this trip, I don't think it would ever hurt. I mean, you need to go with the right heart and mindset, like you're
Yeah.
going to surf. You're not going on a vacation. Although, compared to where other people have gone, like this place is great. It has awesome food,
Right,
But as long as you go with the right heart, willing to serve, something good will come out of it.
Yeah.
Like God will do something with that heart that you have to offer. So I think everybody should go. I do.
Yeah.
So Sam, next time you're signing up.
Yes, sir. I'm going to go to Mexico. But yeah, Alina, thank you so much for coming on.
course.
I'm really happy you came through. And guys, if you like this video, like it, subscribe, comment, whatever topic you want me to talk about with whoever, drop it down below. And that's a wrap.